Welcome and thank you for tuning in to the home of the most competitive game coverage, most intense unit analysis, and the highest of high-level plays ever seen by two casuals who barely know where the rule booklet is. You're listening to This is for Worlds. Let us join Aaron and Phi and see what competitive topic is on the docket today. Hi, welcome back to the This is for Worlds podcast. I'm Phi.
And I'm Aaron.
And we're here to talk about games that we've played and, prepare you for the competition that is, the games you play around your kitchen table and, at your local friendly game store. What do we got on the docket today?
All right, well, we have, modeling for advantage, seeing what we've been working on, painting, building, games we've played, a lot of Victory at Sea, some Gaslands, a new section for us, the Contentious Conjecture, and then, as usual, future competitive markets. What are we looking forward to? So, Phi, what have you been working on?
In terms of the active games that we're playing, I just haven't had the time to do any painting. It's mostly been assembling. Once again, I have two more full squads. And this one, they're actually full squads. When I'm on the ferry, I've gotten into a rhythm where I can complete two full West German infantry squads, which makes me pretty happy because it's also, as I'm saying that, I'm now realizing that there might be a full squad in the center console of my car right now that have probably been in there since Thursday. So I may need to go get those after we record. But I've got a nice little rhythm where I can, with just a relatively dull knife, because when you're on the ferry, rocking back and forth, I don't want to risk my fingers too much, but I can do most of the mold lines underneath, and a lot of that stuff's going to get covered in basing material anyways. But two of my West German armies are complete. I've got a Canadian mechanized that's going up next, and then one of the other games that I know we've talked about already that we're kind of looking forward to is Gamma Wolf. So to kind of test what robots I wanted to do for my faction, I guess, my team. I don't really know what
your crew.
Yeah, I don't really, because we haven't started diving into it yet. We just got the rule book and kind of read through it. I don't really know what they're called. I was building a bunch of Zoids, and I've got a few of them finished that they'll work as heavies, but nothing else in either current scale. So I've kind of put those on pause, and hopefully, this week, I'm hoping to get a little bit of painting done on Team Yankee. I would love to finish up the last three battleships I have for the Italians in Victory at Sea. That way I can just be finished with the Italians for a while. What about you? What have you been working on?
I went on a bit of a building blitz the past couple weeks. Last time we chatted, I had finished, let's see, all of the good guys I have for Shatterpoint. So just the core set half of the good guys and the box with Obi-Wan. Went ahead and built the rest out of the core box. So there's 20 some models there. Bits and pieces, just some random single minis that I had set aside that came in Marvel Crisis Protocol. They usually come in 2 dudes to a box. Bought a box for one model. Haven't got around to building the other one. Built a few of those. What else? There's a heck of a lot on there. 10 more tanks for Team Yankee. 10 more M60 Patents, specifically. Because I'm kind of trying to fill out the core of what I want to do. So either an M1 Abrams core army, right, centered around them, or Patents, or infantry. It's I probably want more platoons than I want to buy and put together of M113s.
They're super simple.
I have one platoon. Yeah, it's just one platoon is 4, and I kind of want 3 more. It's just a lot of, at this point, tedious, boring building that, yeah, it's just a slog for me to get through, I guess. And I've been painting my Wookiees, which I actually finished building while we recorded the first episode of the podcast. I am now finally all the furs done. I just picked a different color because in the squad there's there's 6 unique sculpts. Each sculpt got its own unique tone, just contrast, couple dry brushes, and then it's just going and filling the details. So hopefully I can knock those out, because before Gamma Wolves I kind of want to get a bunch of projects done and off my paint desk. So
what you're saying is, after painting fur, you are primed and ready for Ewoks.
yeah, I'd like to be, but I don't know how much of that I'm going to be able to afford when it comes out.
That's fair.
Although I am, oh well, we'll cover that during future competitive markets. So, but yeah, that's basically, it's just, been a lot of building, because I use a couple of old like cookie sheets that I found at Goodwill as like my paint trays.
Nice.
And I probably had 2 of those just full of built stuff, primed stuff. There's a tray that's primed in the garage right now, and getting the Wookiees out of the way. So, yeah, what have you... oh, wait, no, we already covered what you worked on. Oh, the most professional. Yeah, that's all I've been working on.
That's fair. Have you decided what you're going to be painting those as? Or are you still kind of sticking to your like G.I. Joe-ish theme that you have for World of Tanks?
It's down to 2 things. It's either G.I. Joe, if only because it will probably be pretty easy. Just looking at when it did some Googling to see what they look like versus what I actually remember playing with for various vehicles, and it's fairly basic, solid colors. If anything, if I did that, I would want to find some actual, I know they're fairly similar. Like, you squint, you could probably think that some to scale decals would be G.I. Joe or just American, but yeah, find some actual decals in scale, or Command and Conquer style tanks. So I did see a guy on the Facebook group.
Yeah.
Although he was painting it like the first game, which I never played. They're not quite just like, here's red, here's blue. There's a little bit more color in there, but yeah, it's one of those 2, because I would like to get those done, because I keep adding to that pile and never painting. So
yeah, it kind of makes you wish for like the blimp and Tim Curry just being like, in space.
Oh, right. Oh, so good.
Yeah, I saw those pictures as well. They were fantastic, and I was just like, if I already wasn't committed to my own video game fandom and fictional nations, I was like, that would have been a serious contender as well. And someone does make their own decals for stuff.
Sorry, say that bit again?
Someone does make their own decals for stuff.
True.
So, just saying, when you finally decide on what you're going to do, we can work together, we can get that done, and then we can show our wonderful listeners on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah. It's just like figuring out what exactly I want to use for Gamma Wolves. I unfortunately have pigeoned myself into a certain aesthetic that I really, really want, and then it doesn't work out perfectly that I can use one miniatures line for all of the Gamma Wolves frames. And now I'm like,
yeah.
So, I'm still waffling. I feel like I might just buy a single blister with a heavy gear mech in it, just so I can get it and hold it in my hand and get a frame of reference. So,
I told you that scale would work for the lights. I know the ones that you're talking about are probably like, oh, this is a heavy, and it's got like all these on it, and then you set it down, and you're like, you are a light tank. Or a light mech. Look how cute you are.
Right. You are a tiny baby.
He's such a little baby mech.
So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
it's just I want one very specific thing, and if I can't have it, I'm like, hmm.
yeah,
So
I'm somewhat similar. So far, there's a number of the tanks from Ghost in the Shell that I have found 3D prints of that I would 100% love to use, but like that's super limited in what you will be able to have, field, and all of that. So, as we've talked about in the past, I'm I found more 3D prints that let you mix and match heads and cores and arms and weapons and stuff,
mhm.
just like an armored core. And that's the route that I'm eventually going to go down. Um, I don't know what kind of paint job or theme I would want for them though. Like, am I gonna take a corporation or a faction from like any of the Armored Core series? Am I gonna wait for Armored Core 6 to come out and take ideas from that, or my favorite of the series, go back, play Masters of the Arena, and pull from there and see if anything that I liked from that. But I mean, you also have a little bit of freedom that a lot of them didn't have like faction or corporate markings, and a lot of the time you were just a one-off mercenary. So it gives you a lot of freedom in what you can do for yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll probably go with like BattleTech inspired, just because there's a lot of really cool. How do you say the word liveries? The paint schemes are they don't usually go in for like camouflage necessarily. Like
Yeah,
house units, the noble houses, they'll have like really bright contrasting. Like one's primarily white with green and like neon green and purple. But some of the merc units are super cool, so I'll probably draw from them. Is what I'm
ooh,
thinking.
I wonder if there's like old Hammer Slammers, like squad markings or anything, or something to that effect that I could like dig up and make as like patches or something. Because I think that would be pretty cool as well. And I think that would go towards one of the teams, which is mercenaries, where they're not really loyal to a specific faction in and of itself.
Right,
Um,
the Ronins, right?
yeah. So like you can have a little hodgepodge in essence of um, different color schemes, different emblems, and whatever they've got on their mechs for markings, because they're all their own mechs working together for a price, or whatever moral code they may have, whatever you want to infer upon your mech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, now that you say that, I probably will do that because that'll be an easy in-universe way for me to justify why the design language of whatever I end up taking, like if it's drastically, clearly different, you're like, oh well, it's the whole point.
The the other idea that I've also kind of been toying with for this so far, uh, as you know, not a lot of our listeners know, because we haven't really talked about like certain aspects of the Legion stuff that I do. But I got into Magic the Gathering during the new Phyrexia block, so that was like a huge um, point, and I really dug into the lore a lot, and I really liked the Phyrexian storyline and the Phyrexians themselves. So my Legion, I've got two droid armies. One kind of a House Serrano for Count Dooku, but my other one has mirror heads swapped on all the battle droids. So B1s, B2s, um, the tactical series droids, the super tacs, all of those, they all have mirror heads on them. And then Elish Norn is my leader, and the more I painted that white like armor with the red undercoat, like for like the destroyer droids, I think are the best ones that look that way. Like the red
Mhm.
legs, the red kind of mech underneath, and then the white headpiece and the white rollerball. Like it just gives it that really cool, like flesh golem with pristine armor pieces to them. So I was thinking they have that one faction you and I talked about it last time, where it's like the pilots are adapted to the
Oh yeah, like
yeah,
genetically engineered to deal with
yeah,
the environment. Whatever. Yeah.
yeah. So I was kind of thinking like maybe I find mechs as well, because like I really like the Ronin idea for kind of like doing the mix and match. But if I do want like a specific nation or city state or force, whatever they're called in Gamma Wolves, that's one that I'm kind of leaning towards, because then I can like really lean into that aesthetic and see where I can go from there.
Excellent. So,
I think
let's say, is that everything for modeling for advantage?
I think for this week, but I also think that kind of leads us more into our new segment, contentious conjecture, a
Mhm.
fancier way of saying hot takes. Uh, if we start with the topic, historical versus real versus fiction. Another way to think of this is like uh, canon versus homebrew or fanfic. Because when it comes to a lot of games, uh, a lot of times you will see people stick to whatever historical or canon references in games that they have. So, what we mean by
Sure.
that is if you're playing Star Wars and you have stormtroopers, most everybody's going to paint them white on black. If you're playing, you know, probably X-wing and you want to custom do your stuff, you're probably going to do like a white X-wing or a grayish with like red markings, maybe different colored markings on whatever squadron you're trying to represent, blue, red, whatever. If you're playing Team Yankee and you're playing Americans, then you may do like a sand for the different operations we've had in the desert, or you may do like certain greens and woodland, based on like real paint jobs and stuff. Um, I've never fallen into those categories. Um, and so I'm kind of curious
Hmm.
about why people do what. Because ultimately, like, I'm here to play games how I want to play games. So I think it is uninteresting, in my opinion, that if I'm playing Battle Droids, they're all the same, standard tan or the like rust red from Geonosis, uh,
Hmm.
than doing something anything different. And all the media out there teaches you how to do it. So if you watch like Sarastro or anything like that, they all do the same thing. And I'm just like, I want to see more differences, but some people find that it takes them out of stuff. And then it gets even weirder because Team Yankee is a war that never happened. It's just with forces that happened to exist at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like when I've painted Legion stuff specifically for me, the only one that I can think of now, mind you, you know this, some of our listeners might not know. I had basically the entirety of my Legion army fully painted, 100% done. I proceeded to strip and repaint basically every miniature, repaint, rebase, the whole 9 yards, because it was my Rebel Troopers were fairly, I don't want to say movie accurate in terms of like picture perfect, but it had the same. It was boring old earth tones, just like you saw them, which is fine. I mean, if that's not to say that if you want to paint your stuff that way, paint your stuff that way, whatever makes you happy. But I found it incredibly boring, and I had been painting miniatures that way the entirety of the time that I've been playing games, were primarily in earth tones, on green bases or forest bases, and I wanted something a little more colorful. I picked purple sand bases, and then went through and picked a primary color, basically for each section of the Force Org chart for Legion. So, like my primary color would be deep browns for the basic troops with like green accents. Where like the veterans, they're all in green, and everybody else has the unifying yellow, like for their pants, like an ochre color.
Yeah.
And then basic troops brown, green on them. The unifying color for all the special forces is they have some element of blue. And it made it's still fairly. It's not like I did any drastic conversions or did head swaps, but I wanted there to be some unifying theme to the colors, and I wanted them to be like not obnoxious, but just a little bit brighter. So like the browns went up into almost like a kind of like brownish tinged pink for the highlights, and even went into like my headquarters units were, with the exception of like my Luke, I have the special edition Luke of him in his flight suit. Like things like that, iconic things like that, I still painted as they were in the movie. Like my snow speeders, they're just painted gray. Put some markings. I think I picked. It's been a long time, so I don't feel like digging them out. I think I picked green for their markings, but for like the meat and bulk of the army, I just kind of picked, okay, everybody's going to have some element of like ochre colors and brown leather boots for that kind of stuff, but then with the big broad colors, there'll be a unifying theme and work from there. So even my Wookiees, like I could have just painted them all one brown color, but like I said, I picked a different tone for each. There's like an orangey kind of tan brown. There's a really, really light brown. There's like the leaders are meant to be like older, so they're almost like all their fur is gone kind of grayish. Just to kind of have some variety. And then if I'm motivated enough for them specifically, they'll be the Battle Shield Wookiees will be painted like Native American tribal art, because it's definitely got that vibe with the pattern. Ooh. But yeah, I feel like every time I've seen it, it's kind of just wood colored, and that's kind of boring. So,
I mean, I'm just saying, I'm sick of seeing white stormtroopers. I'm sick of seeing gray ATSTs. You
don't like painting it. I painted a lot of ATSTs. They're not fun to paint.
I beg to differ.
Boring.
I beg to differ.
I find them incredibly boring to paint.
I have 2 ATSTs that are in a desert / Scarif theme. Granted, they're mostly tan, but the decals I put on them and the base work with them, I had a lot of fun. It was completely different than like anything else that I'd seen on them. And people are out here playing. Granted, your miniatures, paint them, do with them as you want.
I get why you want to.
I get it. Like their whole thing could totally be my immersion into this game is I want to see my stormtroopers, and I want to see an iconic Veers instead of like the like leopard green and tan that I've got for mine. Because like I'm reenacting the movie and I'm doing the thing, but like that to me goes out the window when Veers is like charging with his ATST across a battlefield into a Vader or a General Grievous or something. So like I understand why people do it. I just want to see a lot more creativity. Like that's my favorite thing when I see people like when we saw those pictures of the Command and Conquer armies. I was super ecstatic. I was like, that's awesome. I can't believe I didn't think of that. That's pretty fucking cool. And if I ever like to God help me, I don't think I'm ever gonna do like I do for Legion and buy I want a whole nother army of French so I can do my own version of that. But like I would
Yeah, hard pass.
yeah, this is not
I don't want to buy it again.
yeah, you're right. I don't even want to 3D print them and do them again. Like I love the game. I love the miniatures except for the resin. But it's not that interesting in terms of like modeling. You're building the same model. You're painting the same model over and over and over and over and over. So,
Like the plastics are fantastic models. They really are.
yeah.
At least all the plastics I've built, all the American tanks, aircraft. So
I'm just saying,
yeah.
people should be a little more creative in their work, or at least like do something different. Like,
Yeah, make it your own.
yeah, stop doing what everybody else is doing. Make it your own. That means you do like a fiction or something, vice like a historical reference or a canon reference. You know, live a little. I just encourage people to try that for once. Like that's my contentious conjecture. Is I want to see more custom designs, not the same. Here's my Leopard 2s painted in NATO. It's like, good job.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't be wrong. I've been awful tempted to just, when you look in the book, you're like, yeah, you can just paint your Americans forest green, give it a dry brush, call it good. I'm like, ooh, it's awful tempting because it's really, really easy. Like, a good 90% of that work is out of a rattle can.
And I understand. It's probably also
Yeah.
fast. It's probably also real fast.
Too. Yeah, I have a lot of crap for that game, so.
Same. I'm just saying.
It's funny you mention that specifically with Legion, only because I know we've had at the store, we sell used armies, and we've had a Empire army sit in the case forever, and no one's interested in. And we're like, may as well do something, paint it weird, do something weird. And Chase had the idea to prime them all like yellow and have them be hazard troopers, right? Because they're supposed to be like a different kind of trooper for everything.
Yeah.
And do like rad troopers, like they operate in radioactive environments, and which is a pretty cool. Like all he's done is prime them and wash them, and they already look super cool,
dude. And that's like the other thing. Like, I guess my thing is like, stop doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. Like, there are also really cool references in whatever that you could like do in and of itself. So like your Hazard Troopers is a great example. I know it's like done to death, but like I'm kind of sick of seeing 501st clone troopers. There's a number of other factions out there. I know there's the only one battle force, but like there's so many other cool ones out there. Stuff like that. I mean, I've done all my stuff differently, and you know, this is our podcast. It's our contentious conjecture.
yeah. There's no one here that can tell us otherwise.
Yeah, but it's ultimately it's your shit. Do what you want. Have fun with it.
It just popped in my head. One other thing that I tried with Legion that didn't work out because, like, everybody paints their Mandos, their Rebel Mandos, kind of the same.
I don't even know.
I was
how
like,
you
oh, it'd be pretty
those.
cool.
How does
Yeah,
that...
well, I mean, like, look, it just ends up being like grayish fatigues with blue armor, which is what I ended up doing, if only because they're special forces, and the special forces color for my army was blue, so it worked out. And I just incorporated the ochre tan into the uniform, but I wanted to paint all of mine like the armor, that kind of red and brown with a gold helmet.
Yeah,
I couldn't get it to work, Uh, like I tried painting it and I thought it looked like utter garbage and I didn't like it, and I just took the easy way out because I don't really like Mandalorians like that much. I don't know, is that a hot take? Like they're cool, but they're the one thing I don't have as many of as I can take. You know,
I
like I got vets
mean,
I can take. You know, I'm like they're cool, but like they're just not for me.
I'm just saying, when I do mine, they are going to be like the full OSHA squad. Like, they're probably going to have like a white top with like a black center, and then like black pants, and then a yellow helmet for like a hard hat, kind of thing. I just need to find them because I wanted to play them last weekend and didn't have time to assemble all that fun stuff. Uh, yeah, that's my hot take for the most part. Shall we go on to the other part of this conversation?
Sure.
The next part of contentious conjecture. Torpedoes in Victory at Sea, they fucking suck.
They really do. They really do.
And you have decent ones. And like, I'm not complaining about the fucking damage. I'm not complaining about like the number of dice rolled to see if you even hit. I'm purely talking about figuring out if you can even hit with them when you're looking at the penalty dice.
Yeah, the fact, and it's one thing I've talked with John, our other regular opponent, several times when I express my own frustration. I get it. Realistically, you know, it was like a 1 in a million chance, right? Like it was the one shot that got through that you know really did the damage, or a couple shots. It wasn't an easy thing to pull off. But at some point, the historical reenactment has to stop, and there has to be some game mechanics. There has to be some reason for me to take, you know, submarines other than to fill out 50 points, for example. But it's just so frustratingly difficult to ever get them to work, where it's like, it's almost like I'm trying so hard to get the torpedoes to work, it's to my detriment. You know? Like I'm trying to line up those shots while I'm getting unloaded on with, you know, reliable gunfire.
Well, the thing that I will always come back to is the game probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. I perfected where my submarines needed to be, where you came into the box I had them deep in. I brought them up, put them on the table. They moved so that they were in base contact with you at an angle, but my point blank was 1 inch, and I was like just outside of 1 inch, which meant you had moved your full flank speed. I was already taking a -2 on the torpedo, so boop, instantly cannot hit with a torpedo, even though I am physically base to base with you, and the only way was like flattening it up against you.
You had to be like parallel to my bridge.
Yeah, and I had to be like parallel, right next to it to actually get that measurement on. I forget which one I was trying to shoot, which is even more annoying. Because that was like, I'm pretty sure at the time, it was one of your bigger battleships. Like, I know it wasn't the Yamato.
It was the Congo? I think it was the Congo. Because it's the only other than heavy cruisers, I only have one other battleship. It's the Congo.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the Congo. And I was like, yep, this is my time to shine. We're going to light this thing up. I've got 2 submarines. And then, like, took the measurement and was like, this sucks.
Especially if your target hasn't gone yet.
Yeah.
Never mind the flank speed. Sweet, say your guys are lined up perpendicular to the ship,
Yep.
touching, base contact. Sweet. I'm just going to move 5 inches, and as soon as you have a negative modifier, you're hosed.
Yep. Because, like, I kept trying to think. I was like, the only other thing here is, like, maybe I get your full silhouette in arc, but then that also screws me because if I turn it to be perpendicular to get you inside that arc, well, now I'm outside of range again from base to, where do we measure from? I'm blanking on, from bridge to bridge.
Yep.
So it's like, this is just awful, and it's a feel bad, and I want to take submarines because I'm a fucking submariner, so I want to play my submarines, and we came up with a solution, but it's ridiculous that, like, no matter how many times we look up the rule on forums or anything like that, everybody's like, that's how the rule works. And you're like, sweet.
No, we enjoy being miserable when using torpedoes.
Yeah. It's one of those, it's like, so you're basically saying every other, like, if your faction doesn't just have really good torpedoes, and by really good I mean, like, don't get penalized for having such short point blanks, then it's like you just don't consider taking anything with torpedoes, or just like, all right, that's got an armament on it that I can't use. Because, like, even the couple cruisers that I've got, that can't do anything with them. Granted, I haven't done much with the Americans, so I forget, because I haven't played them since we really first started. But I remember having a similar, I think their torpedoes were like point blank 2-inch though, so
Yeah, it sounds about right. John's played them against me a couple times.
yeah, so that at least does a little bit better, but it's still such a feels bad because, like, you're already up against it, and then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, sorry, your opponent is still moving flank because there's no penalty not to.
Yeah.
So it's just
At
like,
least not that we found, unless we're playing the game drastically wrong.
which that could totally be like, hey, you guys are fucking dumb. You can only go flank for like a turn or 2 turns or whatever. And even then you're like, oh darn.
I mean, I do see it being you can only move flank if you don't turn or something like that.
Yeah. It's so frustrating, and I'm glad that we finally came up with how we just play it around our table, because it's still a challenge. It still has all of that. It just gives you the opportunity, and
Yeah, it's definitely more forgiving.
and the number of, well, it's not even more forgiving. It's just you get to play with the toy that you brought.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's the big thing to me. Because, like, why am I spending money on more submarines if they're literally useless? You cannot do anything with them. What am I going to do? Like, treat them as a picket line for, like, a light gun? Like, I'm going to try and deck gun you with them? That's insane.
Yeah, it's to the point where it seems like that's the big draw to play mechanically, to play the Japanese, because I was coming up with the problem of not being able to hit, even when my point blank range, like on my destroyers, who it seems like they're amazing for the point value. Yeah, they only have like 7 health, but they all have 2-shot torpedoes, and some of them they can swing to either side, so I can unload 2 torpedoes either side and then do a second turn. They could, quite honestly, almost one-shot something that's 100 times their, I don't know, just quick math, like 20 times their health, right?
Yeah.
Even having an 8-inch point blank be like, sweet, because like we've all figured it out, play John, and he's like, that's the only one that can't go less than 6, because I don't think it's actually flank speed. It just moves 6 inches, period.
Yeah.
The bonus. and obviously the one that can't move that fast is screened by the rest of his fleet, and it's just like so frustrating because it happened to me in a game we will cover in our next section. I won't spoil it now, but I took 3 submarines, whatever come in the box. I took all of them. I think 3 submarines, and I lined it up perfect where John was at basically the intersection of one of the corners of the box I put them in. It was the furthest box, or it was the furthest corner from my side, and it was perfect. They were lined up perpendicular to him. The center one was exactly across from his bridge. Even bridge to bridge, I was like, I'm like 2 inches in there. I'm point blank. And then, of course, he's like, okay, well, it's my go, yeah? Yeah. Well, that ship moved 6 inches. Basically, what is it, 2 inches in a turn? He just executed three turns.
Yep.
And I had one that was barely, like, he might have been being nice saying it was in. It was barely in. But of course it was on 6s, which I'm okay with. I get why it's on 6s.
Yep.
That I don't have a problem with.
Nope.
If only because when you get that sweet shot and you're able to stack a bunch of positive bonuses, it feels good because you had to work for it.
Yep.
To get those bonuses.
100%.
But the simple fact to be like, sweet, I'm basing you, but I'm in like the rear third of your ship, and touching the base pulls me out of range to like short range, and it's like, or even long, like on your Italian submarines where it's like, what is it, like 1, 2, 3 or something like that? It's just like, why? Like, I get it, it's 50 points versus the Yamato's like 1,000, for example.
I mean, it's 30 for my Italians, but yeah.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it just seems... I don't understand. Granted, yeah, I don't understand why I would take my faction then. Unless we want to play a historical reenactment, which is not why I personally play games.
I mean, we're kind of doing a shitty job with that then, because we literally played the Axis fight each other the last time we played, like, because we'll get into it. We did a 1v1v1 just so all three of us could play at the same time, so nobody had to sit out, and like, that's what we played. I keep playing Italians because I want to win once with them. Yeah, they're making it so fucking difficult, but I think, and we'll talk about it in the 1v1v1, I think I found how I do it. I want to play submarines. I'm a fucking submariner. I want to play submarines. And both the factions that I have, I'm super penalized for even taking them. So it's just like, we need to do something. So what we did, and what we've chosen to do with everybody who plays at our table, we measure base to base for torpedo only. So if you are bringing submarines, then you measure from anywhere in the arc from your base to anywhere essentially the closest point on whatever your target is. And so far, it's been a lot of fun. I think you'd agree that it has led to more interesting games and a lot less oh man, this feels bad, and I regret bringing this or that and what have you.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a portion of your army feels like an entire dead purchase that's just like, sweet.
Well, and not having bought super deep into the Italians, like a number of the ships that come in the starter and like whatever other couple smaller things that I've managed to acquire, they have it on there, and it's like, sweet, that's never an option if we don't play this way. And I mean, we tried a couple different methods of like, oh, maybe we somehow make a rolling scheme of, we get into like using D12s or D10s or some shit and like figuring it out from there. But this just seemed the simplest because you still have to put submarines, you still have to plan them out smartly. Otherwise, as you've mentioned, the ship just drives away and you're like, yep, should have seen that coming. Or, uh, yeah, I mean, that's mainly the big one. Because, frankly, every time I've gotten my Italian cruisers within range, I've missed every single time. So I can't, like,
This
oh,
makes
yeah, so
good.
I can't be like, yeah, with skill, my Italians, I'm like, they're one shot, they fucking miss every single time. It drives me insane.
I just like it because it certainly allows you, like it's like I said before, it's more forgiving, but it's still like it also rewards being able to like get perfect placement on submarines, and you're able to base the person because it's like sweet. Essentially, no matter what, if you base them, it's a 5. So you have at least a 33% chance, essentially, because you're
And
always going to get point blank. But it still rewards the opposing player of like making sure they move fast enough and they maneuver around the limited range that the torpedoes have and go, okay, I know that if I can basically like kite you, like the term from video games, or I can like tease you along and just keep you chasing, but just at enough range, you're still constantly fighting against those negative modifiers where you still need to get a positive modifier. It's not quite so disappointing when you think you're like, sweet, I've got the perfect, nope, yep, nothing happened. Awesome. This is a great game. I love it.
plus, let's also be a little real here. You and I have taken heavy battleships and like duked it out with each other. The heavy battleships usually get the ability to, have extra AP, do extra damage via plunging fire, stuff like that, because they've got that extended range. But when it comes down to like it's just the cruisers and stuff left, and maybe there's a wounded battleship or maybe there's a wounded heavy cruiser, the game drags on forever.
Yeah. There's not enough of decisive firepower
Yeah.
left on the table that can do real damage, meaningful damage.
Yep. And to be frank, it's why a number of times I've just looked at the game and been like, I'm gonna call it here, man. Like I'm literally gonna turn my fleet. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna vacate the area because I'm not gonna sit here, eventually lose this ship and deal only potentially 4 damage to you a turn. Maybe I get lucky with a crit, but there's no way I'm doing anything to that. So we're just gonna turn, set sail, and head home. Because I don't have anything left. And at the time before we were coming up with that rule, it was like, oh, they got torpedoes. Oh, pretty sure their range is like 4 inches, so I ain't doing shit.
And with my with the Japanese fleet, like the Congo gets, I think, +1 AP on its cannons, where like the Americans, it seems like, yep, big guns, I make you go boom. Like it's fairly easy to come by that. The real strength, it seems, is in my fleet is my fast moving ships that are agile, literally the keyword. They can only move an inch in turn. They can maneuver around you, and they can set up those really good torpedo shots.
Yep.
Uh, Even having played and taken the Yamato, which does have all of that, it just, yeah.
Sweet. So that is our contentious conjecture is torpedoes fucking suck, and the only way to make them work in Victory at Sea is measure base to base.
It's so simple too. Like I don't feel like it makes anything confusing. It doesn't make anything debatable or like, well, what about, this isn't. No, it's just base to base with torpedoes.
Yep.
Everything else still applies. It's like a super neat fix to make them actually playable.
Yep. Sweet. So speaking of games that we've played, uh,
Mhm.
the two main ones that we kind of want to talk about tonight are the ones, the Team Yankee, or not Team Yankee, the Victory at Sea that we've played in the past 2 weeks. A little, 2 weeks ago, let's see here. I want to say that's when I took my two Italian battleships, like the new ones that I just picked up.
Yeah, you just finished painting them, didn't you?
Nope, those are the ones that
No,
still need to be
no.
painted. But it, but
Um,
it was probably the first game after I finished painting the rest of them, like the starter box.
mhm.
Yep. So we tried that. I think you brought the Yamato and the Congo because you brought fewer ships than you normally do.
Yeah, where I was just like, how many points? How many? What's the lowest number of things I can take?
Yeah. Um, and because I like, obviously we hadn't come up with a rule yet. My torpedoes, like, I just could not get them into range. And that was ultimately where we decided to like come up with that rule because that's where I set the submarines up. They were right there. They were base to base. They were staring at you, and it was just like, good job, men. Wave at them as they pass us and they leave, and we'll dive and we'll run away. Um,
Stare menacingly.
yep. But like the battleships were just slugging it out. Like probably doing 8 points of damage. Like nobody was really critting at all. We were just doing like 8 damage to each other every time we fired at each other. And then because yours had significantly more health than mine did, like eventually both of mine uh, went down without too much more fuss. And then my cruisers basically turned and ran because Luigi wasn't gonna stand up to your uh, remaining fire. I don't think I took anybody with me. It was brutal though.
I, yeah, I was gonna say that last one's a bit hazy, but the one afterwards was quite memorable.
I was gonna say that's the only reason it's hazy is because the game that came after it was just like, what the hell happened? Because I
Yeah,
remember,
so good.
I was just gonna say I remember staying around for like, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes and watching that game before I had to leave. And then probably before I even made it home, you like sent me a picture of like, this just fucking happened.
Yeah, because we played not much. Like it wasn't even 1,500 points. I don't think. I want to say it was like 1,350 or so. Maybe it was 15. I took the Yamato, so that's 1,000 points. Three subs, I think, a couple destroyers, and like one light cruiser. I can't. It's the Agano that I have. It's basically just a destroyer on steroids. It's like 20, 15-ish health, I think. Anyway, so I didn't have a whole lot to support it, but I'm like, whatever. I got the big thing. It'll move up a little bit and kind of just lob shells. It'll be fun. Now, mind you, I can't even remember. I think it was just a battleship shot that John sent my way. Uh, of course, there's always the option on the table for criticals in that game. John rolled 4 or 5 crits. One of them was a vital. Mind you, the Yamato had taken no damage. It has something to the tune of like 160 odd health, I want to say.
Somewhere around there.
Uh, yeah, rolled a vital, and then it's a further d6 roll, 6 being catastrophic explosion. The ship is removed from play, and that is the most I'd ever seen John animated since we've known him. And then just like that, in basically 3 dice rolls, rolled 4 dice rolls, rolled the hit, rolled the crit for damage, rolled the vital, and then the result, 1,000 points were gone in a heartbeat, and I was just like, oh my god, this game, why? Uh, yeah.
I mean, it's partly why we love it, because like,
Yeah.
where else does that
Out of
happen?
out of nowhere.
And we cheer it every time we see that crit. We're like, roll a 10, roll a 10, roll a 10. And then when it
This time's
happens,
the time.
yeah, and when it happens, it's like, roll a 6, roll a 6. Dude.
Because I think that's the only time it's ever happened, right? It didn't happen in our other one, did it?
No, we kept getting gypped because like I would roll the crit, and then I would roll the 10, and I would roll a 2, and it was like, okay,
Consistently, yeah. Because I think the Akagi in that other the 1v1v1 had 2 or 3 vitals on it,
yep.
but they were like the least impactful vitals. Where I was like, oh no,
And I kept doing the
I
same
have to
one,
move 3 inches forward. Yeah,
and I was like, all right, we're gonna pick a different dice for this one, and I would be like, oh, there's the crit, oh, there's the vital, it's a 2 again.
and then
What the hell?
wah, wah, wah.
It's great though, because like, yeah, it feels bad losing the toy, but it's also like, that's insane that is a thing that can happen, and when it does, you're like, you feel bad for a little bit, but then you're like, that was actually pretty amazing.
And that was the game too, where after that happened, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go because I'm fairly certain John took um, Mighty Mo, right? Like 920 odd points or something like that. I was like, I'm just gonna try and kill that. Like, there's clearly no way I'm getting out of this alive.
Yep.
But all my destroyers are basically going to force him on 6s. They're never going to move less than at 6 inches.
Yep.
And being a destroyer, they're going to be 6s. So I got speed on my side. That was also the game where I had the like picture perfect placement on my submarines when they popped up, and I was like, all right, awesome. I got 3 submarines. Like there's everything says I should be able to nuke this thing out of the water, or do a huge chunk, have him roll a bajillion crits that escalate, and like all the fun stuff happens.
Yep.
And then, like I said before, he's just like, boop, 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 boop. I'll just make a little half Yui here, and then you'll whiff on your 6s with your 2 dice. Sweet.
And I mean, at least you got 6s, because if that were my submarines, they would have just been like, he's so fast, he's so daring, we could not dare to shoot at him.
How could we? Yeah. But the other Victory at Sea game we played, the 1v1v1, was fantastic.
Oh my
Except at the end, it
God.
did get a little sloggy at the end, but I had a blast.
I mean, it's because we all shot our loads, and then we all stared at each other like, oh shit, not everybody's dead. What the fuck do we do? Especially,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, especially since we played to rounds. Like, I think that's also the first time we figured out was it 8 round?
Yes.
Yeah.
8 or 6, I can't remember which. No, I think we were on 6 when I was like, hey,
Yeah.
I didn't know it went to round. Do you know what turn we're on? I think we all said we were probably on turn 6.
Yeah. And then we're like, oh shit, okay. So we really can't do more than like, because that's really why. Because this is the first time that both you and I were able to play mass aircraft, because we got our sweet, sexy dials from Admiral Tater's ship shop, who just
Which you can buy from him now.
yeah, he just posted that listing on his Etsy shop, and oh my god, I've never, like, for those who play Armada, the squadron dials, markers, whatever you want to call them, in our Victory at Sea are essentially just like they are in Armada. They're like a little peg that comes off of a 1 inch diameter circle with like little tiny fighters on them. You can barely make them out. So I was like, why would I do this if you can barely even see, like, you can't even differentiate a 109 from a 0 to a P51 uh, on the thing. You just have to read the words. So I was like, why not just commission these and get these done? And they came in, I want to say the day before, or that day. I picked up the box, brought them in, we unboxed them at the game store, and it was like, they were smooth, they like were fantastic, everything was great. And then we started playing with them, and oh baby, were they just chef's kiss. The part that sold it for me was when I flew all like, it was like 12 squadrons or something up to John's Graf Zeppelin, I think, the German carrier.
One that never actually existed.
Yeah, and he killed,
Yeah.
I think he killed like 6 of them when they pulled up to do the attack run. And because they're magnetized, it was just like, that guy's dead, that guy's dead, that guy's dead, that guy's dead. And it was just a satisfying click, 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 click. I pulled all of them off the board without, messing up the placement of the rest of them. And then I just looked at you and was like, no, that felt so good. And he's like, but you just lost 6 squads. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't knock over.
Yeah, right.
It's like, I didn't knock anything over. I didn't accidentally move anything. It was just so satisfying to be like, bloop, 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 bloop. All right, we'll continue on with this attack then. They're so nice. I will definitely be buying more because as previously mentioned, I think I finally know, which is weird because I get penalized for taking aircraft that, I think in general, my initiative is just flat -1.
Yeah, that's what I remember it being, yeah.
I can't remember if it's like if I take aircraft that aren't on the carrier. And frankly, I can only take 2 things that are carrier based. And it's like, I gotta wait to launch all this shit? No. We're taking some land based so I can have them in the air and actually do stuff with them. So what we played German, Italy, Japan. We were on a standard 6x4 and we just picked quadrants. And then we started, what'd you say, 6-inch from? No.
Yeah, you had your quadrant, so essentially you had your corner, it was 24 to corner 24, and then 6 inches from anywhere in there, so you just had a corner rectangle.
Yeah, from the edge.
Yeah.
So you and John pretty much lined up right across from each other, and I was on the other end of the table, and I didn't put myself in the corner because I couldn't, because when we rolled for the wind, it was coming from my side. So I had to I had to start closer to you and then face my carrier away so I could do my launches, which meant that I was not... You thought I was bull rushing out, but I was just putting up a fighter screen. So that way if someone else, like, instead of you two fighting, you just came after me and then waited for my carrier to turn around to be able to, like, really get into the fight. And those aircraft did work. Except for my fighters. My fighters just fucking sucked. They were impeccable. They looked at John's fighters and were like, you know what? We're sorry we bothered you, sir. We're just going to go straight to the water now. You have a nice day. We'll catch you later. So, fuck those guys. But my torpedo bombers and my bombers like put in some serious work against his carrier. And it was so bummed when we were like, oh, there's only 8 rounds. And I was like, but my carrier's back. I can like relaunch stuff now. And it was like, whoops, sorry, game's over. I was like, and depending on how we want to count the win, like, I had the least amount of stuff destroyed, like least amount of points destroyed, but I also didn't destroy shit. Like you and John were the two that were like cannibalizing each other.
I did get a pretty good, just like it was literally a pot shot from because I most of my points of my 1,000 were sunk into the carrier and the aircraft, probably half. And I took a Megami class heavy cruiser and then destroyers essentially. And the Megami just like I'll just take a pot shot at one of your. I don't think it was even a battleship. It was just like a heavy cruiser.
Yeah,
I don't remember which one it was.
the hipper.
Yeah, and like rolled some ridiculous crits, like added 2d6 damage. Like it was severe. Like I don't think it even shot yet. I was just like, it was literally one of those where I was like, well, it's early in the game. Generally, there aren't a ton of options. Hey, I have a shot. I want to roll dice and play. I don't want to just pass my shooting phase. And I was like, oh, that just happened. I'm sorry. I hope you can still play the game too. It was fairly brutal. Um, yeah, but beyond that, I mean, I got because I kept like inching forward. I didn't want to like be the one to initiate contact because the ranges on all the aircraft, are like 24 inches. They can basically move like regular models in any other game. They don't have to make turns with the turning tool or anything like that. So I was kind of inching them forward, just launching flights of aircraft because I didn't start with any land-based aircraft. I just had my cap. I just had 2 fighters out, and at some point, John had decided to go and fight you, so he didn't really have any air cover. And I lined up 4 torpedo bombers on what was his battleship? I can't remember now.
Uh, the Prince Eugen, I think.
The Prince Eugen, yeah. Fuck the Prince Eugen in particular.
Oh yeah.
Because it might have had a little bit of damage, but it was by no means like hindered in its abilities at all. It had taken no crits. If it did, they were the ones that didn't really matter. Like, oh no, my light guns are at half dice. Who cares?
Yeah.
And it just got nuked off the table with 1 shot, and it was glorious. And he was kind of quiet, and I was like, hey John, you did take 1,000 points off the table last week. It's only fair.
Yeah.
And like it was one of those things too, where like even though the aircraft are very powerful, they did seem very balanced because I can only launch 2, at maximum 2 aircraft a turn if I get the scramble order off. But I have to decide: do I want to recover aircraft and reload them, or launch aircraft? So really, to me, it's kind of like I'm just buying torpedoes. I'm not buying the aircraft.
Right.
They're just getting the torpedoes there. Because as far as I'm concerned, those torpedo bombers were maybe 20 points a pop at most. I want to say 15, so 60 to 80 points. And they probably took off 500-ish points in model, 400 points in model. Like, as far as I'm concerned, they could just go fly around and do nothing. They more than made their points back.
Yeah, because you two fought each other pretty hard. I think the one battleship I brought took a good slap to the face from you. I think, what was it, your Mikami? Like, I was just kind of like inching towards the fight, and you were like, I'm just going to launch a shot over that way just because you're in that arc and that arc can't hit anything else. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, this will be fine. This will be okay. And then all of a sudden, you're like plunging fire, plus this, plus that. Oh, that's a bunch of hits. That's a bunch of damage. And I was like, oh, my battleship can't really stand up to this. We're just going to do a U-turn, and we're going to go flank around to hit John. And then John definitely decided I was his priority, like early in the fight, because that's where he sent all of his aircraft. And like I said, he just neutered my fighters like they didn't even stand a chance.
Which was what I was terrified of.
Yeah.
Because you had massive Air Force
Yep.
already deployed.
Yep.
Turn 1, I had 2 fighters and nothing else.
Yep. But I had to launch the bombers because those were my only. Yeah. Those were my only carrier stuff. Everything else was land-based fighter and torpedo bomber. And so I was like, okay, we can get down to the engagement, and his 109s just ate just ate my fighters. And then he was like, well, I guess your carrier's undefended. And I was like, John, remember I told you what the local is on this thing before
Oh,
you started. And he was like, yeah, no, I get it. I was like, okay. And then
for how crappy your aircraft performed, the local AA certainly made up for it.
yeah, so he was like, I'm gonna move in. I was like, cool, here's 6 dice to the face. Oh, look at that. There's like multiple sixes in that. And he's like, oh, oh. I was like, yeah, this is how this works, John. Keep on coming. And he just kept feeding the bombers in. And then, like, I get it. There wasn't much else he could do because like the little cruiser destroyers that I had rolling around with this squad, like they weren't really going to be able to go after that effectively. But it was like, why would you go to the thing that has the most teeth and like think you're going to get in on it with aircraft? It was like my
That
old,
is quite honestly
yeah,
the best local value I've seen in games that we've played.
yep. It was disgusting, and I truly think aircraft are my way to go with the Italians, despite getting penalized for taking them. But it was just so much fun because I felt like we were doing a lot more. Like I feel when we do a 2v2, even when it's an open map, there's no like terrain, there's no rock mountains in the sea or anything. It just it's a lot of positioning before stuff really starts happening, and this one was just like everybody walked in and just started swinging. It's like, oh, you're dumb enough to come in range, I'll take a pot shot at you. You were dumb enough to come in range, another shot for you. Like,
Yeah, doubling the targets definitely made for a more yeah,
yeah.
exciting experience.
And I still feel it took us as long as a normal game did.
Yeah. I mean, like we've been averaging 12 to 1500 points, I'd say, aside anyway.
Yep.
So,
Oh, and that's
and
another
making
thing. We only played 1,000 for the 1v1v1.
So it was. I mean, that's. I didn't say that part out loud. I thought that part in my head. But yeah, so what I was thinking is that we were playing the average point value. Sure, it might have taken longer because we had 3 people making decisions. But when you have nowhere near as much stuff, and it just felt so. It seemed way more thematic. Like I get that not every naval battle in World War II was carrier centric. Necessarily, especially in the Atlantic, but it was so cool because I kept thinking of like Midway and other classic World War II naval movies of just you're duking it out. There's flak everywhere. Planes are dying, flying down, and it's just those few that get in there, get those shots in, and do the real damage, and things go up in flames. And it was fantastic.
Yeah, I know we've decided that we want to do Team Yankee next, but like I'm dying to get another game of Victory at Sea on right now. Like between the torpedo rule that we're kind of homebrewing and like that game that we just had, that's some of the most fun tabletop, like kind of fair balance, like good gameplay. Everybody's having fun. Everybody's doing stuff that I've had in a while.
I mean, I'd be down again for next week.
Yeah, we're playing Team Yankee because that's what you requested.
Yeah,
And
but now that we talk about it, I want to play Victory at Sea.
look, motherfucker, I have a Canadian, West German / American army that wants to kick your ass next week. I'm finally
All
putting
right, we can do that.
I'm finally putting some motherfucking weasels on the motherfucking board in
All right,
helicopters.
we've been talking about that basic. Ooh,
Yeah,
the big ones? Or?
yeah.
Oh, well, that's That's the only way you can airdrop them, right?
Yeah, I don't have the second Sea Stallion, but I do have the cardboard version of the second Sea Stallion. So we can fucking do that.
Heck yeah.
So obviously I'll have my Victory at Sea stuff there, but I'm down for either. I really enjoy both games. They just scratch that very niche and specific itch that I have. Should we talk
Yeah,
about the Gaslands game?
heck yeah.
So I'm a nerd who loves music.
Ugh, disgusting nerds.
Oh, fucking nerds! But because of this, and just not feeling the best representation uh, in the sponsors for Gaslands, really just wanted to homebrew my own thing that kind of combines that. So before we went out to play Thursday, I was like, hey, I want to play the homebrew one that I had shared with you a little while ago, and then like had the idea going into work that morning and was like, oh, I know exactly how to build out this specific niche. So the overall sponsor is called Ultrasonic Experience, and you have freedom in this sponsor to customize the sponsor to support you in essence and like your personality because it's all music based. So the overall gist, like I don't want to read through it to just kind of save some time. Like we can put up a Google Doc and share it at some point or something. But the overall point is like you have to take wall of amplifiers, but you can take it essentially without a slot cost. And then a lot of the perks for whatever you pick work off of that. So there's a couple different. I think we've only really done 4 of them so far that we've kind of built out. Like, if you go with ultrasonic, you then get to pick your genre of music that you perform. So like, there's classical that's built out. There's rock that's built out. There's heavy metal that's built out, and EDM, and then there's the joke one, emo, right now. But I wanted to play EDM because I had this idea that I was like, basically, the only thing you want to do is bump people with hazards and then use a thumper. So you get a bonus for taking a thumper with the EDM version of this. And I was just like, that's it. I know how we're building this, and we're gonna play it. And it was you with, I forget what you played, Rutherford.
Yeah, I had just spitballed the Rutherford team really quickly. It wasn't any of the ones that I had
Was
played
it?
before.
Yeah, it wasn't one of your regulars. And then Andrew, I forget what Andrew played. He brought 3 cars.
He also played. Oh, he played a slime team.
Yeah, that's right. Because we were telling him he needed rear wheel drive so he could make that spin work. Uh, yeah. So I had 2 cars. Andrew had 3. You had 2. And because the EDM allows you to take Michigan upgrades and weapons, I basically only had 2 performance cars. They each had wall of amplifiers, thumper, and experimental teleporter. And bless Andrew's heart, Andrew just like every time I failed, Andrew was like, "I'm gonna help you out," and I was like, "I don't know what's happening right now. This is not Rule of Carnage."
I maybe I deeply offended him in another game we played. I'm not sure.
I don't know because he like well looked at us like, man, you could have put me here, you could have put me here, you could have like super screwed me here. He's like, nah, man, we're just here to play the game, and it's like, you're playing the wrong game, man. We're here for blood. But we quickly realized that the EDM team is not a race team
No.
because I got out ahead way too quick to the point where I was like, I want to test this. So I pulled a U-turn on both cars and like drove back so I could do the things with the stuff. And overall, I'm really happy with it. I think it worked. I think it needs I don't want to say additional, but I don't want to up the audience votes for its special, because I think when it happens it could be way too much. But it's a team that's better for deathmatch, or it's a team that's better for one of those games where it's not about like racing to a finish. It's more interacting with each other. Like it'd probably also be great for that beast mode too. I forget what that was called.
Oh, the like Safari Hunt one.
Yeah, the thing where we had the dinosaurs.
Yeah. I can't
Yeah,
remember now what the heck it's called. Big Game Hunt, I think.
I think so. It's from the book, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, it totally is. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun because like I got to do the things and it did do the things, but I just realized really quick, and so because of that, uh, one of your cars didn't even get to leave the start zone, and then the other one I basically like slapped it around as I ran back into the big ball at the start gate. And then Andrew had two cars that were just like free from the fur ball and ran like unimpeded to the win, which was nice.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a good time, but I was really just kind of waiting for you to go so I could see what crazy shenanigans you got up to.
Yeah, and like we said, it worked, and it did do the thing. Like it put out the suppression, it moved you guys around. Um, but overall, or at least like take the teleporter off. But the problem is, if I take the teleporter off, our games, like when we play with Sam and Albert, typically nobody makes it to the first gate in the first like 5 years, because we are just so brutal to each other that if you don't take teleporter, you're never hitting that first gate. Or if you don't take hot start or nitro, you're never making that first gate. So I don't think it's a racing team, the EDM one, but I want to also test out like the other bands in the sponsor.
Yeah, my goal for this Thursday, if I can pull it off, is to have some kind of heavy metal sponsor team
Yes.
ready for Thursday.
Yes.
I've got plenty of bits. I have some cars at home, but I have, again, a very specific. I might just throw it together with cars I have to try it, but not be the actual end goal. I basically want to make
Yeah.
the car from Rob Zombie's Dragula, like that style of hot rodding kind of car. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be a good time.
Oh, I'm so excited. It was funny because like when I gave what I like told you that, and you were like, "Does this do what I?" Oh my god, there it is. And then we shared it with like we were telling Andrew about the idea, and he was like, "Wait, is there?" And we're like, "Yes." And he's like, "Does it do?" And we're like, "Yes." And he's like, "Oh my god, this is brilliant." So like, yes, please put the heavy metal one on the table, because like I am also particularly proud of that one. So yeah, and maybe if there's enough interest in this, we'll once we kind of like fine tune it a little bit more, we'll put it out. And if our listeners are interested, they can fuck around with it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that one wasn't the best game, but it was still interesting.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I think that was pretty much it for our games.
Yeah. Because I didn't get any Marvel Crisis Protocol games of note in the past few weeks. It's actually, I'm kind of burnt out on that one a bit. I'm probably going to go next Wednesday and try and actually play some Shatterpoint instead.
Nice.
So, But yeah, I'm actually just racking my brain now, trying to double check. But that's all I played. I mean, I did play some more Flesh and Blood. I know we're not really a card game podcast, but I continue to thoroughly enjoy that game.
Fair. We also did the Legion, the asset event on Saturday.
Mm.
I know you didn't get to play in that.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Well, I'll get you a game. And then I did a learning game for a Legion skirmish as well with a guy who is super into it now, and he's already, I can see in my DMs a couple more lists that he wants to try out. And then I got a game of Armada in with John today, and let's not really talk about it. John is still new to Armada. Like, this was his third game. However, because John has impeccable rolls, which carried over to today's game, and he does tend to win a lot in other games. I did not feel bad about pressing W and letting two Star Destroyers eat his face. So there's not a lot there, but we also have the Armada players in the area. So if people want to, play that and do a little bit more with that, we have people.
You had a moment. You needed to be a big bully and just
Oh, it was a bad
pummel
bully.
John.
Dude, it was a bad bully. Like, he's not dumb in how the game works. He knows he still needs to figure out the tactics with ship, but he fully understands the movement, the shooting, the defense tokens and stuff like that. But he's also limited in what fleets he has. So I brought a nasty token shenanigan list with Admiral or Grand Moff Tarkin, a Simoon ISD, a Quat ISD, and an Interdictor that just with projection experts to keep my ISDs topped off if they get a little close to taking wounds and stuff. And I just pushed it forward into his MC-80, MC-30, Nebulon, and Corvette. And just didn't table him, but that's only because his Nebulon B saw what was coming and hightailed it out before I could really lay some smack down. So not a lot of strategy to that one. So as he progresses, I'm sure we can cover it. We can talk about his progression, but yeah, I don't really want to dwell on the seal clubbing. But as mentioned, John kicks my ass in a number of other games. So
I mean, I think I've probably only beat him at Team Yankee 2 times.
Yeah, so a little bit of the I'm going to take my revenge out right now may have come out, and we'll just leave it at that.
I mean, gotta give and take. You can't be the punching bag all the time.
Yeah,
even though I frequently play for work and I'm trying to encourage people, make sure they have a good time and they keep coming back.
Yeah,
it's like, John, clearly you're gonna keep coming here and spending some of your money here. I'm gonna get my win in every now and again.
Yeah, so, but it was really nice to play Armada. We were kind of thinking about it, and we realized we probably play one game a month of Armada. I would really like to play more. I know there's a number of people in our area that play that. I just want to put my spaceships on the table more, and that's it.
Yeah, because I feel like most of the times I've seen your stuff, it's kind of like it's when you took the SSD or you didn't have a ton. And then it was super cool to see so many big ships out on the table. I saw your pictures on Discord.
Yeah, and a lot of the ones that I've been doing for when people have probably seen me playing Armada is I do a lot of demo games. So I've had a lot of people who have been super interested, and because I have all the fleets, like I can basically just say, hey, what's your favorite faction in Star Wars? Do you like clones? Do you like Empire? Do you like Rebels? Do you like droids? Like, what do you want to see? And then you give it to them, and it's like super easy for them to be like, oh, this is really cool, and I like this, and I want to do X, Y, and Z. And then sometimes I'm lazy, like I am today, where like the last time I played, I did bring the Superstar Destroyer, and I was like, I just want to bring as few ships as possible and only have to worry about as few ships as possible. And then today was, yeah, I can probably fit these, and I don't have to go grab fighters or dig them out and stuff like that. But after talking with him today, I was like, ooh, I really want to get my Quasar onto the battlefield, because I've always wanted to play it. People have always kind of looked down on it to a little bit of an extent. I've always loved the design of that. It's most commonly known by most of the fandom as a rebel ship, the Flurry.
That's how. Yeah, I was going to say that's how I know it.
Yep, but we don't have that version in Armada yet. Although they're already
my next question, actually.
Yeah, they're already doing the faction swap. So, come on, AMG. You know you want to give us the Flurry title and give us a rebel option for the Quasar. Come on.
It's just a card. It's print and play at this point.
Right? Well, everything they've released so far is print and play. So, come on, just do it. Just please, just
gimme.
Give us the official one. Just do it. You'll sell more product. Come on. You don't even have to like do a lot of work for it either. So, I really want to get that on the table, so I think I'm going to work on that list and find the fighters for it. So the next time John wants in a month, I can break out that fleet for him. But that's the extent of mine. It's like we've been talking about it. I did get the games in, but was super busy last week, and hopefully with the 4th coming up, I'll have a little bit of time to... I really want to finish the Italians, and then at least start base coding the Team Yankee force that I want. Because I have an idea on how I want to do the paint job. The materials to do it should be in shortly, and then that'll be prepped and ready for July 29th when the Nords come out, because that's what I'm fucking waiting for, to just like go ballistic and have the exact force I want, and then I can piddle around with the French and the Dutch and the West Germans.
Your little side projects, yeah.
Yeah, they'll probably be upset because I bought all of them first, and then the hot new things showed up. But had I known, I would have literally waited. I would have just been like, hey, guys, I'm going to get into this game in July of next year. If you want to, like, join. Instead, they announced it 2 months after I started buying into the game. So, woe is me.
The store appreciates your support, though.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. And Chase already has a list of everything I've been able to scrape off the internet about what's coming out. Like I feel like we have a really good Swedish list of stuff coming out. I think we've only seen like one Danish, maybe a Norwegian thing, and then like only the card pack for the Finns. So I'm fucking dying. I was telling Andy at the store because we were talking, and I was like, I kind of fell for it. I forgot it was July, and I thought it was June. And so, like, June 29th, I just sat there spamming, like, refresh at work on the website, like, probably, like, every 10 to 15 minutes. And then they announced the new battle terrain packs. And I was like, oh, that means it's coming out today. And then, like, while I was like, I forget where... But then I saw someone like ask it in the Facebook group, and everybody was like July 29th. And I was like, Fuck! God fucking damn it! Shit! Ass! Ah! Oh, I want the S-Tank so bad. I don't give a fuck. I'm running 100 of them. I'll find a way. Give me that sweet plastic
Yeah,
crack.
let's hope Battlefront holds up their end of the deal, and we get them for release day. That's all I'm gonna say.
Please don't alter the deal any further, Battlefront. Just give me my crack.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else? I don't think we have anything for future competitive markets, do we?
No, really, the only thing I'm super excited about right now is getting that new Gaslands team going.
Hell yeah. We're doing Blood Red Sky later this year. We're doing Gamma Wolves as soon as I can finish my 3D print setup. All I need is to figure out how to vent it outside without letting bugs and shit in. Like, that's the last part that I need for this. And I just need to find a couple fucking couplers, but... Sweet. Shall we sign off?
Yeah.
Fine. You know what?
Yeah.
Go out and game.